Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. I am Minister Nicole here with First Baptist Detroit, and I'm going to talk about communication today. I am a licensed professional counselor as well as a licensed minister with First Baptist Detroit, and this is not counseling. This does not create a counseling relationship. However, these are just some pointers based on scripture that might help us along our mental health journey so that we stay in a place of mental wellness. Today I want to talk about how we talk to each other. Communication is the foundation of every relationship. And I would like to encourage us, each one of us, to communicate to each other with kind words. There are a few scripture on kind words. Proverbs 16:24 says, "Pleasant words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones." Proverbs 15:1 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." It is important that we communicate well with each other. Not only is there the means of communication, there's also the issue about which we're communicating about. If the means of communication is distracting because it is delivered it's delivered in anger, or it's delivered in an unclear way, we never get to the underlying issue about which we need to communicate. So I have just a few pointers about fighting fair, because there is going to be conflict, and how we communicate about the conflict is significant and essential to resolving the conflict. Before you begin the conversation, I would ask you to ask yourself, why are you upset? Is it really about something being left on the counter, or is it something bigger underlying that is making you feel like a boundary has been violated? Perhaps you feel like your efforts are taken for granted or your wishes are not respected. I would encourage you first to make sure you're identifying the root of the issue so that the conversation can be targeted toward addressing the root of the issue. I would encourage that one topic be discussed at a time. I would also encourage that no degrading language be used. Personal attacks are an attack on the person as opposed to attacking or addressing the issue. Attacking the person is not good because it's not effective for getting at the issue, but it's also a double-edged sword, because after the issue is resolved, we often remember the personal attacks. And those words can't be taken back. You can't apologize, you can't come back, you can't explain why you said what you said, but it's best if you do not engage in personal attacks. Express your feelings with words, such as, "I feel hurt when you ignore my phone calls. I feel scared when you yell." Take turns speaking. Give your partner your person you're talking to the full attention while he or she speaks. Sometimes it's good to let the person who has the floor to hold an object, and that means that the only person speaking is the person holding the object. It stops the other person from interrupting, from making corrections, from challenging. It's a reminder, a physical reminder, that the person with the object is the speaker and the person without the object is the listener. Also, stay present in what the person is saying. Don't listen to the person figuring out how you're going to counter what they say. If there are some points you want to make but you don't want to forget, it's okay to have a piece of paper and write it down while the person's talking, but then redirect your full attention back to that person so that you can really receive what they're saying. You may think you know what they're going to say, but you give them the courtesy of hearing them out. They may say something that you don't expect. On the flip side, it's also important to probably have a time limit on how long each person gets to hold the object. The person doesn't get to bulldoze the other person by talking and talking and talking, so that the other person's perspective does not have an opportunity to be heard as well. No stonewalling. It is easy to retreat into a shell and refuse to speak. This is stonewalling. It might feel better temporarily, but the issue will not be resolved, and the other party will probably be more upset. And sometimes people stonewall to make the other party more upset. This is not a sustainable communication habit or method. You have to be able to talk out the issues. And it's okay if sometimes you need a break. Maybe sometimes you might say, you know what, I'm not in a mindset to discuss this right now. Let's table it. That's not stonewalling. Stonewalling is when you just refuse to talk about the issue. Yelling. Yelling, some couples, some people communicate effectively by yelling, but I would discourage it. More than likely, at least one person in the conversation is not okay with yelling. So I would encourage you all to agree not to yell when you're communicating the issues. Take a time out if things get too heated. Again, if it's good for you to take a moment, go for a walk, say let's table this for another time, not forever, for another time, or perhaps to say, you know what, this really isn't the best time to talk about this. Let's talk about this at a more appropriate time. Maybe set a time every week to talk about the heavy issues in the relationship, but maybe not while you're out at a social event. That may not be the time to discuss it. Also, attempt to come to a compromise or an understanding. There isn't always a perfect answer to an argument. Life is too messy for that. Do your best to come to a compromise, which means that you both give and take a little. If you can't compromise, simply taking the time to understand your partner's perspective can help soothe negative feelings. So these are fair fighting rules, and I would encourage you to attempt to apply these fighting rules to your situations where you have conflict with family, with partners, with loved ones. This has been our Mental Health Monday, and I hope that it's helpful to you in your relationships and your communication with each other. Thank you for joining us.